Welcome back to my Transformers animated episode reviews. Today, we're taking a look at the three-part Season 3 premiere, TransWarped. Yes, it's a little sad that we are already on the final season of Transformers Animated. But at least the good news is that the best is yet to come. And this season really kicks things off with a bang. In this three-parter, well, there's so much happening that it's almost impossible to summarize in a couple sentences. We get an awesome battle scene between Team Rodimus and Team Strika. Sari's origins are finally revealed, she gets her upgrade, and well, there's just so much awesomeness, let's just get right into it. Like I mentioned, we begin with an epic battle between Team Rodimus and Team Strika. Yes, I know technically they are Team Athenia and Team Charr, but those are too hard to remember, and Team Rodimus and Team Strika are much simpler. I like how these are basically all new characters that we haven't seen in the show before, other than Ironhide. But even him, it's nice to know what he's been up to since Auto Boot Camp. And I love that they all get to show off their abilities. Brawn has his super strength, much like his G1 counterpart. Hotshot has flamethrowers. By the way, how cool is it to see Hotshot in a Transformers cartoon again? I know that when I eventually get around to reviewing the Unicron trilogy, I'm probably going to be sick of Hotshot by the end of it. But for now, I think it's pretty cool that there's another version of the character in this continuity. But speaking of the Unicron trilogy, we also have Red Alert, who is actually based on the Armada character, not the G1 character. And she is a she! Aww, so cute! I love it when they make female versions of established Transformers characters. I mean, there's her and... well, I can't think of any other Transformers characters at the moment. If you can think of any other Transformers who have been gender swapped from one continuity to another, let me know down in the comments below. Oh! Skywarp, Nova Storm, Acid Storm, Cosmos, and kind of Clobber from Transformers Cyberverse. I just remembered that there's a whole bunch of gender swapped bots in Cyberverse. Aww, I miss Wait, what am I doing? I've still got 3 episodes to review and I'm only a minute into the first one. I can gush about how much I love the gender queerness of Cyberverse later on. So, to round off the Autobot side, we of course have their leader, Rodimus Prime, who is actually played by his original voice actor from Transformers the movie, Judd Nelson. His thing is that he has a bow, which seems like a nod to his fishing rod in Transformers the movie. After all, you can use string and sticks to make either of them. Now on to the Decepticons. First we have Spidor, based on the Beast Wars character of the same name. His ability seems to be Explosive Spit, kind of like if you were to combine Toad and Gambit's powers. Then we have Cyclonus, based on the G1 version of the character, not the Transformers Armada version. I guess we already had enough of them in this episode. His power seems to be kind of like wind or sonic booms or something like that. He seems to be able to knock over the Autobots by just flying over them, or by swinging his swords at them. Kind of like those big Yiga Clan guys. Then there's Oil Slick. And while there has been Transformers named Oil Slick before, this version of the character is totally original. Actually, he had a toy in the animated toy line before this episode, making him one of the few characters in this scene that you can actually get a figure of. His deal is kind of like Mixmasters, where he's a chemical expert, obviously releasing an actual Oil Slick on the Autobots, as well as using Cosmic Rust on Rodimus. Then we have Blackout, obviously based on the character from the first live-action movie. His power is that he can unleash EMPs from his feet that shut down all systems in the area, as well as apparently undoing that too. Blackout did receive a toy too, but unfortunately he was a Japanese exclusive. And finally, there's Strika, based on the Beast Machine's character. Her power is, that she's a big lady, I guess?
I'm sorry, man. I don't know what it was. I know she animated, don't think weird of me, but when she stepped out all thick with the muscles and all big, I was like, all right now, give me a hug, please.
Also, apparently she's Lugnut's consort, whatever that means. These opening 5 minutes are amazing. Seriously, this is on par with the first 5 minutes of the Bumblebee movie. There are so many characters introduced here from different continuities, and each one of them gets a chance to show off their unique abilities. It's fantastic! It really makes this universe feel bigger than just what's going on with Optimus Prime and his team on Earth. We now know that there are other Autobots and other Decepticons out there fighting in other parts of the galaxy. Speaking of which, somewhere in deep space, Megatron and Starscream are still arguing, as Starscream finally lives up to his name and unleashes a mouth blast like Nappa from Dragon Ball Z. I kind of like it. I'm surprised that no future Transformers series tried to give Starscream the same kind of Black Canary style supersonic scream power or something like that. Omega Supreme appears behind them, but he is sadly offline.
He's offline. This could be useful. Very useful.
Back on Earth, we are directly following the events of the Season 2 finale, with the Autobots and the Sumdacs returning home, as the Professor explains Sari's origins.
A little body, like liquid metal. I touched it and got quite a shock.
So Sari was a protoform! A little baby protoform! Aww, so cute.
Why didn't you just tell me you found me in a cabbage patch? Or the stork brought me?
Your story's not consistent with where Sari told me small organics come from.
Nice callback to the beginning of this series where Sari told Optimus Prime where babies come from.
What has happened to my laboratory?
More like what has not happened to his laboratory, as this was basically the same shape it was in at the end of Season 1. Maybe even a little cleaner in fact. But I'm surprised Powell hasn't patched up that hole in the wall yet. So Professor Sumdac kicks out Powell and Masterson. And maybe it's because I recently reviewed the Transformers Prime episode, Grill. Optimus peeking his head through the door does remind me of that scene in that episode. After unlocking her Iron Man hand blasters, Sari feels more comfortable staying with her fellow bots. Aww. The Autobots mention how they can't contact Cybertron without Teletran 1. Although, didn't they seem to be able to call the Autobots on their home base's computer before? Maybe they were connected through Teletran 1. But I guess this is the explanation as to why the Earth Autobots can't warn the others about the double agent Shockwave. We flash back to the Great War, just after the events of Thrill of the Hunt, where we learn that the vital information that RC was carrying were codes that would link her to Omega Supreme. Since she was a teacher before the war, this made her the perfect candidate to act as Omega Supreme's teacher slash, mommy? I guess? Since Omega is basically like a newborn, he'd need someone to guide him. In a way, Animated RC is kind of like the original City Speaker, meant to help and guide a Titan Transformer. A job which then became Ratchet's as the codes were accidentally uploaded into him. And I liked that we got to see animated versions of Highbrow, Perceptor, and Wheeljack. Although it is a shame that Jackie doesn't get to talk, and Percy uses a robo-voice to save money. Seriously, they couldn't get Paul Eiding to come in? Back in the present, the Autobots continue to examine Sari's physiology.
Sari is basically organic, but her circuitry appears to be Cybertronian.
You mean my dad put Megatron parts in me? Ew!
That just sounds very wrong on so many levels. Also, organic exterior, robotic interior? Doesn't that sound like a Terminator? Or, I guess, a Pretender. Elsewhere in the universe, Blur, Thundercracker, and Skywarp free themselves from the ball of goo. And Blur amazingly uses his sheer speed to run across the galaxy and back to Cybertron in order to warn them of the Decepticons. Sonic Boom! But unfortunately, he is greeted by Long Arm Prime, aka Shockwave, who traps and crushes Blur into a cube, much like Waspinator in that one episode of Beast Wars. Thankfully though, in additional fiction, it turns out Blur is still alive, and he is eventually recovered and restored back to his normal, uncrushed self. Back with Megatron, Starscream, and Omega Supreme, Megatron tricks Omega into taking him back to Cybertron. Optimus tries to reunite Sari and her father, but they are interrupted by the Headmaster wearing Starscream's body. Wow, I sure hope there was nobody inside there. What am I saying? Of course there was people inside there. What about the staff? Maybe they ran away when they saw the giant robots fighting outside. So Optimus tricks the Headmaster into transforming, which results in the Headmaster unit being dislodged from Starscream's body. Kind of like those Quintesson controllers in Cyberverse. When we see Ratchet working on Bulkhead, we can spot what appears to be a hologram of RC, right next to his EMP generator. Aww, he must miss her. So sweet. Megatron and Starscream try to hotwire Omega Supreme.
And now the power of Omega Supreme is mine to command.
Well, at least they managed to turn on the headlights. After Omega wakes up and automatically transwarps away, Bumblebee is transwarped in their place, as he had picked up some kind of space bridge component earlier on. Luckily, Bulkhead is able to get him back, but not before he was eaten by a Rock Lord. The Autobots roll out to beat Bumblebee out of the monster. But while they're gone, Sari finally uses her Allspark key on herself, upgrading her into her teen body, and absorbing the key's power.
Hey Boulder Butt, you wanna mess with my city? You gotta go through me first.
No, that's not Boulder, Sari. This is Boulder. I love Sari's new upgraded form. Her Energon ice skates, arm blades, and hammer. Although her helmeted voice is a little scary.
Hey Rocky, you may be big but you sure are slow.
Also, I'm not sure why, but her proportions are drawn really weird in this episode. Her neck is uncomfortably long in some shots, and then her head is really big in others. But in some shots she's fine. Maybe because it's a new design? I don't know. I'd have to ask one of the showrunners when I get a chance. Sari is not able to control herself, and ends up accidentally stabbing Bumblebee. Aww, poor Bumblebee. After a couple of failed attempts, they ultimately have to use Ratchet's EMP generator on her in order to shut her down. We then cut to Cybertron, which has 2 moons by the way. Perhaps a base on each of them? And on Cybertron, we see Metroplex. Does he transform into a giant robot though? No, sadly, he is apparently just the Autobots' headquarters, and just an homage to the Titan-class Transformer. Maybe if there was a Season 4. This turns out to be the location of Long Arm Prime's office, and Cliffjumper is his secretary? Back on Earth, Omega Supreme transwarps over the Autobots' base, but he's controlled by Megatron. It seems Sari isn't the only one getting a power-up, as Ratchet upgrades Bumblebee's stingers to combat grade. Megatron hooked up to Omega Supreme by a bunch of wires connected to his head reminds me of Megatron from Beast Machines. Funnily enough, had Animated gotten a 4th season, Megatron would have received a triple changer upgrade, and his head sculpt would have been reminiscent of his Beast Machines counterpart's appearance in Season 1 of that show. Prowl and Megatron do battle inside Omega Supreme's mind, and Megatron being all purple with glowy lines, not to mention the grid behind him, definitely reminds me of when G1 Megatron was upgraded into Galvatron in Transformers the movie. Thankfully, that's not what happens here. The Autobots have enough to deal with without an upgraded Megatron too. Although again, if we did get a Season 4, I wouldn't be surprised if they did somehow work in Galvatron, as that is apparently one of Derek Wyatt's favorite Transformers. With Prowl's help, Omega is able to fight Megatron's control.
It appears you and I are destined to battle aboard this ship once more, Autobot.
That's what I was just going to say. They battled here in the series opener and the Season 1 finale. But while doing so, Starscream seizes control of Omega. And may I just say that pink Starscream looks pretty cute. He kind of reminds me of Majin Buu, or Kirby.
It's more powerful than I imagined! Well, not all Spark powerful, but still pretty good.
Again, this show is picking out the self-references for me.
It's more powerful than I ever imagined!
So the Autobots booby trap Omega Supreme with the Space Bridge component,
Amazing. A booby trap that actually catches boobies.
making them warp around space randomly.
Yes! No! No!
Someday I really have to learn how to fly.
Foreshadowing Optimus Prime's own upgrade, which did receive a toy, but it was a Japanese exclusive. A Hasbro version was planned, but ultimately cancelled. And we end this three-parter with Sari finally recovering and making amends with her father. Well, this was an amazing start to Season 3. It really took this show and kicked it up into high gear. The fight between Team Rodimus and Team Strika was awesome. It makes me wish we could have seen some of the other battles between the Autobots and Decepticons, no doubt going on at the same time as this one. I love that Sari's origins are finally revealed, and that she got her upgrade, exemplifying how this season, the show is becoming a little more mature, a little deeper, and more of the plot points we've been teased with for so long are finally being fulfilled. This season is really where the show hits its stride. Virtually every episode this season is great, many of them better than anything from the previous 2 seasons. That is, except for the next episode. But we'll get to that next week. For now, what about you? What did you think of the Season 3 premiere of Transformers Animated? As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all that other fun stuff. And I'll see you here next week for the next episode of Transformers Animated, Three's a Crowd. A pretty terrible episode from what I recall, although it has been a while since I've seen it. Maybe it's just because that it follows this amazing three-parter that it seems so bad by comparison. Perhaps on its own it's kind of okay. So, see you here next week for that.